So this is an orca or a killer whale. This here is a totem pole. This is a memorial. Cycling is a wildly popular activity here. I'm on my way to Salt Spring now. I should be there in the early afternoon. Hi there, Salt Spring. Perfect. Thank you very much. You too. I'm taking a ferry across to Salt Spring Island to do some camping over the weekend. Come with me and learn some English vocabulary along the way. $48 for the ferry. I think that's a pretty reasonable price to take a ferry over for the afternoon. The Canadian dollar is not very strong right now, so it doesn't seem like all that much money to take the ferry over, and I'll be camping for 2 days, so $48 for a camping trip for 2 days sounds good to me. Hopefully the weather cooperates. Hopefully it gets a little nicer. So this is a very typical West Coast day. It's very foggy out today. You can barely make out the horizon today because it's so foggy. It's not super comfortable out camping when it's raining, but like it's kind of fun to see if you can handle it. It'll probably mean a lot of time in the van though, and just sitting around in the van. But I brought movies and I brought my guitar, so should be all right. First thing I have to do here is get up to the campground because this is a first come first served campground. It's a campground called the Ruckle Provincial Park Campground, and you are not able to book this campground in advance, so you just kind of have to go. I think they're quite okay with allowing overflow camping, so I can just camp on the side of the road if there are not enough spaces, but it'd be really nice to have a campground for the night, so I'm going to rush to the campground and see if I can find a spot. Oh, he's definitely going to the campground. Pulling into Ruckle Provincial Park now, and you can see how beautiful it is in here, but let's see if we get lucky and get a space for tonight. Fingers crossed. There are a lot of potholes in here today. The rainy season is very hard on the roads. These are dirt roads or gravel roads, and they get very beaten up. Doesn't seem like there's many people here, which is a very good sign for potentially finding a camp spot for the night. And right away, there are a ton of free camp spots. 1, 2, 3. Which one do I like the look of? 3 looks pretty good because it's rainy today. We'll just pretend that didn't happen. It's not the first time I've done that. So I've come for a walk down to the bottom of the Ruckle Park campground that I'm staying in, and I just wanted to talk about weather for a minute. Let's learn some vocabulary talking about weather. So this is a very typical West Coast blustery day. It's a British word actually. We don't use that much in Canadian or American English, but it works for this weather. It is cold and blowy, and it's not super cold, but it's raining a little bit, and there's a mist that's coming off the sea. So my glasses are all covered in mist that's come off the sea. You can also see how foggy it is out here. I can't see any of the shoreline, and it's not very far away. Usually you'd be able to make out mountains in the distance. And so that west coast fog has rolled in. This is a phrasal verb we use to talk about fog, and it means to, like, it rolls in like a cloud. Fog is basically a cloud that is laying very low. So it's a very foggy, blustery day. It's not really raining, but there is water hitting me. There's a couple of ways I could describe that. I could say it's just very misty out. There's a mist coming off of the ocean. The other thing I could describe that as is it's just foggy. That's just the way fog is sometimes, where there's a little bit of a mist coming in. And the other one is a specialized piece of vocabulary only for this kind of area where you've got the ocean and it's cold and blowy. You get spindrift coming off of the ocean. That's the water that blows off the ocean, and it can be very dramatic sometimes. It can be a beautiful blue sky day, but it feels like it's raining because the spindrift is coming off the ocean. So these guys are tide pools, and if you look very closely at the tide pool, sometimes you can see things living in them. I don't think we're going to see so many things this time, just because the tide is very high. The tide is what, when the water comes in, the tide comes in. When the water goes out, the tide goes out. I don't know if you can see that in the distance, but there's a boat out there. That's how foggy it is. You can barely make out the boat. And this would have been probably pretty scary weather for sailors, because it can be a lot denser than this, and you can't see stuff like rocks here. I shouldn't say weird, but it doesn't really belong here. It definitely looks like it's of African origins, and I like to speculate sometimes about where these things came from. So speculate is a word that means to, like, guess about their origins. There's kind of two guesses I'd make with this little guy. One is that he fell into the ocean somewhere else and has floated here. And the other guess I would guess is that Salt Spring is kind of a hippie island. There's a lot of kind of interesting people with beautiful and interesting beliefs, but somebody might have put him out here as a sign of respect to nature, or as an offering. So we call this guy an idol. The tide has gone out a bit. The water is dropped, and I can see sea anemones in there. These are called sea anemones. They're actually an animal. They look like a plant. Most people think they're a plant, but a fun fact is that these are a type of animal. They're very similar to a jellyfish. So you can see the sea anemones in there. You can see there's some seaweed in there. There's some snails. These guys are called snails. This is a cockle, I believe. I might be wrong about that, but I think it's a cockle. And there's just a lot of different life out here. It's actually a very vibrant or interesting ecosystem. But if you don't look carefully, it kind of looks like there's not much out here. But these coastal rainforests are one of the most vibrant ecosystems in Canada.